Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Eric Brandel with SCAL USA. Thank you for participating in today's SCAL USA Executive Education Series webinar. This session is entitled Get to Know the Travel Institute with Patty Noonan. Please stay tuned for a moment as we allow others to join. Okay, hello again. This is Eric Brandel with SCAL USA. Welcome to our session entitled Get to Know the Travel Institute with Patty Noonan. Due to the number of people participating in today's webinar, all participants would be placed into a listen-only mode. If you would like to make a comment, ask a burning question, or if you have a problem viewing or hearing the presentation at any time, please utilize the question function on your webinar control panel, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll convey your question to our presenter as soon as practical. When submitting a question, please let us know which SCAL club you are from, if you are in a SCAL club. Let me now introduce Jim Dwyer, the current president of SCAL USA, who will make some opening remarks and continue with introductions. Jim?
Thank you, Eric. Hi, everybody. It's good everybody's on today. This is the first of our 2021 SCAL USA webinars. And I always like to say, I used to say the 3 E's, but now I have 4 E's there. We're here to engage, entertain, educate, and enlighten you. So 4 E's. I said this is the first one with the charming and delightful Patty Noonan from the Travel Institute. We have another one coming up on February the 25th with Catherine Heeg, who will give us a question and answer session about social media and Zooming, how to conduct a really good Zoom meeting to keep people engaged. In March, March the 16th, we have Greg Takahara from Tourism Cares. And then in April 14th, we have Pauline Frommer, the famous travel guide writer. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our own charming and delightful Morgan Marovich. Morgan?
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar with Patty Noonan. I'd like to give you a brief bio and background before I welcome Patty. Patty, CTC Director of Sales of the Travel Institute, began her extensive travel industry career in 1984. With a 30-plus year of travel career, she describes as both fun and exciting. Noonan was previously a travel director and operations manager for Maris Travel. Well networked and well regarded by industry leaders, Noonan also served in cruise sales and as vice president of national accounts for InTrav, an education-focused land and sea travel provider with luxury land and sea itineraries. An accomplished speaker, Noonan is an educator at heart, spending much of her time now coaching and mentoring travel industry professionals, particularly individuals new to the industry or considering a career in travel. She's a native of St. Louis and active volunteer and supports several organizations, including Daughters of St. Paul, a faith-based charity. So please, at this time, please welcome Patty Noonan to our webinar today. Patty? Hi,
I'm here.
welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Thank you, Morgan. And thank you, Jim. Appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. So to kick us off, we know that you have been a longtime member of SCAL St. Louis. So tell us about your background, your SCAL history, and the impact that it had on your career.
Well, as you mentioned in the bio, I started my career with Maris Travel Company, which was very fortunate for me because, as I imagine a lot of you out there have had dealings with Maris over the years because they have a global reach for sure. And it was just a great way to get into the business. I started as a travel director and then I moved into operations. But at that point, I decided as much as I loved what I was doing, which was building itineraries and doing all the research, which of course traveling, and that's the fun part we love. But I decided if I'm going to stay in travel, I really needed to get into sales. So at that point, and I should mention that every single position that I've had in travel came because of my relationships. And I know, Jim mentioned about being engaged in the relationships, and that's my mantra all the time. When I coach, you mentioned I do a lot of coaching and mentoring. I think I've probably turned in more of a therapist into a therapist over the last year. But engagement and networking is just really so important to me, and I can't stress it enough for people. So at that point, when I was, this is the early 90s, there was no internet. We didn't have GPS. I spent most of my 90s driving around in my company car, lost in the Midwest, trying to find these travel agents that were out there. And at that point, I became aware of SCAL. Some of my friends were in SCAL, and I thought, wow, what an opportunity to get to see people in a relaxing environment, to have a glass of wine with them and share a meal. And I thought, wow, this would make my life, instead of having to run around 8 states, I could go to all the different SCAL clubs in the Midwest and really knock these people out in a much more effective and efficient manner. So really that was part of my reasoning for getting into SCAL initially. And I'm probably not alone. I would imagine there are a lot of people that were thinking along those lines. Back then, there were very few women in SCAL. As many of you know, I was the second woman to join the club, and at that time it was robust. We had TWA, we had all the airline reps were there, all the GMs of the different hotels were in the club. So it was an extremely robust time for the industry. And so I'm out there driving around, lost in the Midwest, calling on travel agents. And one evening I was having a cocktail with the president of Intrav, and he mentioned that they were going to be opening up a new distribution division, a new division within their company where they were going to start working with travel agents. And so he said, why don't you come over? It'll get you off the road. Come in and see if it's something that interests you. Well, I have to tell you, that glass of wine turned into a 15-year career. Fabulous. We did the Concords around the world. I mean, the trips, they were the pioneers in riverboat cruising. So we were doing riverboat cruises when nobody else was doing that. And so SCAL's always had a soft spot in my heart, because, and I think once you're a SCAL league, always a SCAL league is sort of my philosophy. I eventually moved down to Naples, Florida with them, and they didn't have a SCAL club down there. And unfortunately, we don't have a SCAL club in St. Louis right now. And that's something Jim and I are talking about, and maybe we'll try and get that back up and running, especially with what's happening in the world right now. I think there's really a need for people, maybe they didn't have time before, but now you need to find ways to reach out, find ways to connect and to network.
Absolutely. So let's talk about where you are today and about the Travel Institute and its history and the journey to what it is today, because I know we've talked about the transition. And so let's talk about what it used to be, where it is today, and I guess let's get to know it a little bit better.
Well, I've been with the Travel Institute, formerly known as ICTA, which is the Institute of Certified Travel Agents, and anybody who's been in the industry since the 70s or 80s probably knew us as ICTA. And when I joined 13 years ago, they had just gone through this whole rebranding process. They wanted to, brush it off and freshen it up and sort of reinvent themselves. And it's interesting because when I joined the company 13 years ago, I went back and I started looking at the history, because we were the certification programs and the education that the Travel Institute provides were just so popular back in the 80s and 90s, because there was a huge grassroots a push. There were these people, they got together and they would earn their certifications together. But I went back and I looked at this article, and if you know Brownell Travel, they're I believe they're the oldest travel agency in the United States, and one of my favorite travel agencies. Well, George Brownell was one of the founders of the Travel Institute, or ICTA at the time. So it started back in 1962. And he, in this article that I've got here, and I mean, I don't know what planet this guy dropped in from, because he talks about, he says, you know what? Computers are coming. There's going to be a day when people are just going to, these high-speed computers where you can just click and you're going to be able to pull up a fare and you're going to be able to book trips. And he goes, and guess what? It's even going to be connected to your telephone where you can actually pay for that trip online. You know, he didn't use the term online, but these computers, and he called it the jumbo jet age. And again, remember, this is 1964. I was 9 years old at the time, and he's writing about computers and the impact that it's going to have on the industry. And he went on to say, he says, like any other service organization, we have to stand or fall almost entirely upon the competence of our personnel. If we are to be competitive with computers, our staff will have to provide our clients with highly personalized professional advice and assistance. And that's where the whole idea of ICTA, the Travel Institute, came about. They created the CTC program. We spun off, this group, we're a not-for-profit. The idea behind that is that they want somebody totally independent that wasn't going to be pressured by suppliers or advertising. They wanted to make sure that we were totally nonpartisan and conducting ourselves that way. But I love that that he recognized that, and to this day our mission continues to be just education. We don't do anything else. We're not a host agency. I'm not looking to recruit you. All I want to do is to help you, give you the tools that you need to be as successful as possible and make a career, a successful career in travel. That's what we do, and that's our mission every day when we wake up. And it was our mission, 55 years ago as well.
That's very, very fascinating. I mean, it's almost like he had a crystal ball and he could see the future.
It was. I mean, I will share this with anybody because it goes on, and the thing, and just talking about, this computer is going to be your competition, and what is it that individual, what is it that the travel professional needs to bring that the computer can't? Well, we all know what that is. It's relationships, and it's personal service and listening and all those things, the human factor.
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of that holds even more true today between the relationships and the customer service, especially. So, I mean, some of the tried and true principles from years ago are even more valuable today. So, very good points there. So, I guess, why is the Travel Institute the standard for education? And when you're mentioning that it's independent, what is that? What is the standard that it upholds, and what makes TI different from the other educational providers?
Well, that's a great question because there are other education programs out there, certification programs. A lot of people have their, want to get into that, and they want to be a part of that, whether just for their own people or whether they want to do it for recruiting purposes. But again, it's all that we do. Our staff, I'm the only salesperson at the Travel Institute. The rest of the staff is made up of subject matter experts, editors, researchers. So when you come to the Travel Institute and you take a certification program through the Travel Institute, you're getting the most up-to-date information. It's extremely time consuming, and other people who try and get into education, I guarantee you that the courses that they try and come out with, within 5 minutes, they're out of date. Things change. So it's a huge drain on resources. And so what we try and do, it's also not a one size fits all, and we recognize that. And that's the other thing that makes us different, is that we've got different levels of education and different levels of certification to meet the different needs out there. For instance, I do a lot of my new to the industry webinars. People are so interested. I do 4 webinars a month, and I get literally hundreds of people on each webinar who are interested in getting into or thinking about it, just want to learn more about the business. So that's a big part of what we do, is educating these people and giving them the basic tools, the basic foundation, so that they can then take the next steps, whatever that might be. I wish it was me handing them a sheet of paper saying, if you do these 5 steps and then you're a travel agent. But it's not. It looks different. Everybody comes into this different. They come in with different expectations. They come in with different skill sets. So it's going to look different. And that's one of the reasons why people want to come into the industry is because of that flexibility, and they can pretty much make it into whatever it is they want. So that's a big part of what we do, is that entry level training and giving these people, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation. So we want to give them a place that they can come and feel safe and know that they're getting good information. But then you go to the certification programs. We've got the CTA, Certified Travel Associate, which is really focused on frontline selling agents. All right, so the skills that they need to be successful. Then we've got a management program, which is our CTC, Certified Travel Counselor, and really focused on, if you're middle management, maybe you're a trainer. And then we've got the CTIE, Certified Travel Industry Executive Program, which is focused more on leadership and executives. We get a lot of suppliers that come in and actually go through that course. To date, we've certified over 26,000 travel professionals out there, and there's nobody who has those kinds of numbers either.
Wow, that's amazing. I know when I first started in the industry, I went through and got my CTA, so I can say firsthand, it's a great program, and I remember studying and going through all of it. So it's very thorough.
Well, and it's only gotten better. Again, we put a lot of time in it. The CTA is by far our most popular, because if you're an independent contractor and you're out there and you've hung a shingle and maybe you're working with a host agency, it's one of the easiest ways and one of the most effective ways to show and demonstrate your professionalism. It shows that you put in the time, that you wanted to learn more, that you wanted to join this group of people that have educated. I have to tell you, there was last week, if you were reading the Washington Post, there was an article in there by this gentleman, Chris Elliott, and he writes about travel on occasion. And he actually said, he described the Travel Institute certification as like having a college degree. Wow. I mean, we don't sell it that way, but it is, when you think about investing in your time, you can't just show up and not expect to put in the work. You owe it to your clients, you owe it to yourself to be as professional as possible, and that's one way to demonstrate that.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the amount of reading, and thinking back to college, I'm like, that's a fair comparison, because when you think about the different areas, because I'm not sure if it's still set up the same way, but there's the different concentration areas depending on like the different like continents or different specializations you wanted. And so when you got into those different areas, there was a nice chunk of reading there to study and dive into. So
well, we break that down into, you've got your soft skills, that you need, those relationship communication. You've got obviously the sales skills that you need, listening skills, but then you've got the practical skills. You need to know how to protect your clients and not make sure that you set yourself up, your accounting systems, and so that your clients can't become compromised. You need to be able to sell insurance, especially these days. Number one, you need it as part of your revenue stream. It's profitable for you, but also to protect your clients and to protect yourself. So it gives them a lot of good information that's going to help them to succeed and move to the next steps.
It does, and we're talking about like in today's age, and what in particular with insurance being really needed. So we know with COVID, it's impacted companies in a variety of different ways, and many businesses have pivoted their models and seen new business as a result, or in some businesses, again, are just kind of staying as they are. What impact has there been on the Travel Institute during the pandemic, and what changes, if any, have you made to your offerings?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, when all this started, I look back at like we were like everybody. I look at my travel agent friends. They were having I mean, they were so busy.
Mhm.
They didn't, their heads were spinning. The industry coming off of 2019, coming into
Our
2020,
year.
the book, it was unbelievable what they had on the books. So when March hit, it was unbelievable what they had to do to undo what all those bookings that they had done. So you know, I'd say when I do a lot of coaching and mentoring, I became more of a therapist because these people were beside themselves. They didn't know what to do. But early on, there was still hope, you know? I mean, people were kind of, it was a unique, I've been so busy and wow, I can breathe. Oh, I'm spending more time with my family. I have time. I've been wanting to get certified. I've been wanting to take that course and, you know, it's been on my bucket list and now I have the opportunity. So there was kind of this, you know, I would say for the first 3 months, we were going nuts. People were coming to us right and left and it led right into every year in the month of July, we offer 50% scholarships on all of our, you can apply on all of our certification programs. And so we were leading right into that. And we had a record month of people taking advantage of those scholarships. Now, once we got through that and people, you know, were in and they were excited and doing it, suddenly September hit. And you know, I saw a dramatic, you know, I could feel it. We're in a very unique perspective at the Travel Institute because I'm dealing with suppliers. I work very closely with the host agencies. I talk to the different consortia partners. So you know, I'm talking to a lot of different people in a lot of different positions and you know, suddenly September hit and I could feel the air go out of the tires a little bit. Suddenly there was just a vacuum and I was, you know, people were suddenly, this is going to be long term. You know, the hope, it wasn't as hopeful. We were coming up into an election, the stimulus, you know, where they had gotten some money earlier on, now they were not getting money and the well was drying up. So definitely it impacted us in the month of September. And then, you know, come January, again, it just seems like a stimulus check came out and I'm seeing that hope again. The vaccine is certainly giving people hope again. So I'm seeing it. So it's been kind of a roller coaster ride. One of the things that we did initially was what can we do to help these people? I mean, besides the scholarships, what else can we do? So you know, I thought this is a great time for people to be evaluating their businesses. All right, make sure, am I working with the right host agency? Am I working with the right suppliers? Could I be negotiating extra points of commission? What can I change in my customer service to so that when we come out on the other side, you're going to be in a better place. So we gave out our business planning module to anybody who wanted it. So that was one thing because we wanted them to be able to have some time and reflect and do some work and focus on their business. And we did that again in December. We decided, all right, people are looking at traveling domestically. Let's give out our Hawaii destination program. So those were a couple things that we did immediately. Most people probably don't realize that we're one of the top textbook providers for travel schools out there. And one of my big schools is up in Canada, and they have their students come from overseas. So when March hit, everybody flew home, and suddenly where we were sending them textbooks and providing textbooks to them, it didn't make any sense. We could no longer ship. So right away, we scrambled and we put our textbooks in an online format so that we could take care of these students and provide the materials that they needed. So that was one thing that we did right away. Um, I increased the number of webinars that I do for the new to the industry. Again, lots of interest there, and it's you know, I have the phone calls that I've gotten over the year. I could write a book because it's fascinating. I had an actor call, for instance, and obviously the theaters are closed, so there's no acting going on. And he's like, you know, I'm not quitting my day job. When acting comes back, I'm going to go back to the theater. But what am I going to do in the meantime? And he had this particular passion, history, and here he was a creative person, and he was an actor, so he could really bring to life the story. So he said, I think I'm going to put together some trips, where I'm actually hosting and kind of bringing them to life. I had a yoga instructor call me, and again, she's not quitting her day job. She's not quitting her primary career, but she saw an opportunity that maybe once or twice a year that she could take her clients. They've been asking, let's go over to India, or go someplace, interesting, that's yoga, Zen focused, whatever. And let's do it. And a lot of people were recognizing that bringing in a travel component to their primary careers would increase their relationships or improve their relationships. But when we travel together, the loyalty factor goes up hugely. So a lot of people were recognizing that I've got some time here, why not put a different twist and bring in a different revenue stream into my primary career. And then of course there were those who had gotten furloughed. I had a GM of a hotel who called me and said, I'm hoping that my job comes back, but if it doesn't, I really want to kind of put things into place so that maybe I can transition into selling group travel. So again, it because of the flexibility within the travel industry, just a lot of interesting conversations out there with a lot of different people looking to get into travel. So I think that's one of the biggest, probably the biggest situation that I've seen in the last year. Just the number of people interested in travel.
That's really great to see, and also it's a testament to the Travel Institute, but also to professional development and wanting to further that during this time. And I know that you've been seeing that professional development has always been important, but even particularly now with with everything going on with the pandemic. So can you just tell us a little bit about the importance of the certifications that you have and the executive level trainings, and the feedback that you've received as to having those certifications?
Sure. The CTA, obviously, for the frontline selling agents, lots of interest in that, but I have seen an incredible amount of interest in my leadership program, the CTIE, Certified Travel Industry Executive. In fact, I had a phone call from David Vass, who's a executive VP for A&K, dropping names now, why not? But he called me last year and he said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had a busy career as at the prime of his career. And he goes, I've always wanted to get certified, but I just never took the time. And he goes, I'm in a situation right now where I'm being asked to participate in panels. I'm being asked to participate on advisory boards. I'm speaking at industry events. I've got 20 salespeople that report to me, and I just think it's important for me to lead by example and to go through the leadership program. And he went through it, and he loved it, and he got his CTIE. Check that off your bucket list. And in fact, he turned around and he put his 20 salespeople through the CTC program. So there's somebody, who's been, did he need to get this? I mean, no, he had a successful career, as most of us, as people that are out there. But, is it something that's going to add to your resume? Is it something that might help to differentiate, as consumers, not exactly, this doesn't go to the executive level, this goes more to the certification of the CTA level. But as we get back to travel, I think that consumers are going to be looking for agents as advocates, agents that can point them in the right direction, make sure that it's safe to travel, can assure them, all those things. So being certified does demonstrate your professionalism. And again, we've got over 26,000 people. It is the most recognized certification that's out there. It builds confidence, makes you a better owner, makes you a better manager, makes you a better leader. I love this. I use this when I do my webinars, when I do webinars for the CTIE. Leadership is not about a title. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration. Impact involves getting results, influence about spreading the passion you have for your work, and you have to be able to inspire your team and customers. And I love that. And especially right now, I mean, we're going to have to be out there inspiring people. We're going to have to be inspiring uh, if you've got people working for you, your clients, suppliers are going to have to be inspiring all of us to come back, to get back on how are you going to get people back on a cruise ship? You know, how are we going to get people? So it is going to be about, you know, being a followable leader, making sure that your message is getting out there and that you're influencing people, you know, when you communicate them, and that you exude that trust, and all of education. I don't care where you get the education. You know, there are other places besides the Travel Institute. Education is just always going to be a good thing, and investing in yourself and making sure you're learning and growing is just always going to be a great practice, and especially in this business. If you're not growing and changing, then you're going to get left behind at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned a variety of different areas, and you speaking of different areas, someone may as well be using your programs, because you do have a variety of different partnership opportunities that you do, and you have a variety of strategic partnerships with a lot of different associations. And I know one, the CTP, the Certified Travel Professional, which I've gone through again with the National Tour Association. So, and you just launched one, I believe, with the Wellness Tourism Association. So what other partnerships do you have, and how are those available? And tell us a little bit more about those.
Yes, more and more opportunities are opening up. You know, people are recognizing, well, again, I'm going to go back to COVID, because where some of these companies had robust training departments, guess what? That was one of the worst hit areas, you know, so suddenly they're down to maybe one trainer. And there's a lot of time and effort that goes into ramping people up, onboarding new people, whatever you need to be doing as far as education. So we make a great partner for those people, because again, we're nonpartisan. We're out there. We can customize anything. We listen to you. It's not just a cookie cutter. You know, you tell us what you need for your clients, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out what the best course is. We can use some of our content. We can bring in some of your content. We're doing a lot of that right now. We're calling it a customized library. It's extremely affordable. You know, why go out and invent the wheel? And I know a lot of people take great pride in having their own training and having their own content, but that's a luxury that I'm sorry, I think it's gone out the door. So definitely that white label, where we work with I work with several accounts up in Canada. I've got accounts here, large consortia partners that I work with, host agencies as well, that, you know, let us do 60% of it, and you do the other 40% with the kind of proprietary training that you need. Yes, and we did the wellness specialist. We just launched on Monday, and that was a great partnership. And Ann Damon, who came to us, the president of Wellness Tourism Association, she sought us out, and she wanted to work with a reputable company like us. We really are kind of the gold standard, the good housekeeping seal of approval out there. So she wanted that. We went out, we got the 4 sponsors. So, you know, we didn't have to carry the load, and the demand was out there. And we've got these great sponsors that are out there, and they're well represented in the program. And I hope I get to go to Canyon Ranch when I start traveling again. And, but we're here to fill the gaps. Again, we're extremely affordable. Our mission, we want to put education out there into everybody's hands, and we can help you make it happen, and make it personalized for whatever your company needs. Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I know that I've seen it with a few other associations. So kudos to you on expanding the offerings and continuing to provide a variety of different opportunities. And in looking at that, looking post-pandemic and into the future, so whipping out your crystal ball, just like the paper that you mentioned.
Yeah, George.
Where do you see the Travel Institute, going, and the importance of industry and industry certification?
Well, our future looks bright. We've made the changes that we've needed to over the last 10 years to get in front of education, to make sure that the courses that we've got are the best ones out there. And there's no question that the especially with the independent contractors that are coming into the business, these people need education. They need help. They're out, a lot of them are out there on their own. They might be working with a host agency, but these are the people that really need the education. They're not sitting there next to other agents. They're not learning, by association. They're kind of figuring it out on their own. So as that side of the business grows, the need for professional development is just going to get greater. One of the things that I find interesting, and again, everything old becomes new again. That's that whole, George Brownell thing. Back in the 80s and the 90s, I talked about these groups that would get together. For instance, in St. Louis, all the people going through the CTA, let's say there's 30 of them, they would get together. They went through it together. The network that they created, the grassroots, was really something. And I'm seeing that more and more. I had a supplier come to me. This was just last week, and he's a supplier, so he's not on the agent side. But he goes, Patty, my 13 staff have been off basically for a year. They haven't been busy. And he goes, I just feel like they need a refresher. They know how to answer the phone. They know how to sell. They know all of this, but I just feel like I need to do something for them. And I said, why don't you put them all into the CTA program and use it sort of as a team building where you get to go through, you can kind of facilitate it, and everybody's doing it together. So you're kind of bringing everybody back into this team. And he loved the idea, and so he did. He's going to facilitate it. I handed him off in a box with a bow, everything he needed to facilitate this group. And now he's putting them back and kind of re-engaging his team and giving them some good refreshers as well. And we're seeing more and more of that. People are looking for ways to bring their people together, and education's a great way to do it. So I'm looking forward. I just had my vaccine on Saturday, and the hope and relief that you have if you've been fortunate enough to get a vaccine and know that the second one is coming, it's unbelievable. And I think that as more people get the vaccine and are more hopeful and start to see that there's a bright future out there, and we can't wait to start traveling, and it's going to be a little bit different, but that's fine. Let's make people safe. Let's get them vaccinated, and let's all start traveling again. That's what I want.
It's a good way to finish it. So I want to turn it over to Q&A now. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question box. I know a few of you have asked about the article that Patty mentioned. So Patty, if you could send that over, we will be sure to get that shared and up on the SCOL USA site under the today's webinar, and as well as we can send it out to everyone too.
Well,
that would be awesome. Frank from SCOL San Francisco has asked, what would be the first advice to someone who wants to transition into becoming a travel agent?
Well, first, make sure that you're finding a reliable source. So, there are people out there who are looking to recruit, and maybe they're not, your interest is not your best interest is not what they're most interested in. All right. So I think coming to the Travel Institute, I usually recommend that people sit in on my webinar that I do once a week. It doesn't cost anything. I share a lot of my knowledge, my experiences. I talk a lot about specialization when you're starting out. So many of these people, it's such a big industry. I mean, it's confusing. You start to do the research, and it's just like it becomes overwhelming. So I think keeping it into pretty simple terms in the beginning, not getting overwhelmed, because if you start thinking, well, I can sell Europe, I've been to Europe 10 times. Oh no, but I've been on a cruise for 5 times. I love cruising. Maybe I'll do that. And, and you're all over the place, and you're never going to get any traction that way. So I usually recommend my webinar. Again, it doesn't cost anything, and I share a lot of information and really help people to kind of bring it into perspective. And then that travel introductory kit that we have, it's the best onboarding course that you've got. It includes our textbooks. It includes 13 hours of webinars by industry experts. It's there's a checklist. Do I set up as an LLC or an S corp? I mean, things that things that you don't necessarily think about in the beginning. And once you go through that, then you've got a really good foundation, and then you start figuring out, do I work with a host agency? Who are my partners going to be? I'm going to be I'm going to name myself Patty's Travel, and because I know Europe well and I know riverboats well, that's where I'm going to start. That's how I'm going to start, because I can get some traction, because I already know it. I can sell that from a place of confidence. But now I need to figure out, am I selling Viking? Am I selling Uniworld? Am I selling I mean, there's all those choices to make. Am I going to work with a host agency? What's the advantages there? So we just help them sort through so much information that is overwhelming. And my trip kit, I tell people you can get into this business for less than $500. And that's the reality of it. You come to us, you do the free webinar, you do my trip kit, which ends up being $279 for all that, the textbooks and everything. So it's very, very affordable. And then, and I'm there. It's not like if you pick up the phone and you call and you want to talk to myself or Gita, we're there. You think I'm kidding? I'm a therapist. I'm on the phone with these people. After I do a new to the industry, these people are calling, and I've been thinking about this. I'm a teacher, and I've been thinking about this for years, and I spend 30-40 minutes with these people, giving them advice on their next steps. And so you don't get that anyplace else for nothing. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do at the Travel Institute. We're there for you. We want to help you. We want you to get into the industry. We want you to be successful.
That's hands-on customer service, which is very good. And just for the audience that's listening, there is the Travel Institute's resume, which outlines the different programs. It includes information on the trip kit. That's available in the handout section on the dashboard. So if you want to download that PDF, it has a basic summary of all the different Travel Institute offerings. It's a good handout to keep on hand when you're looking at different items. I know Frank Legrand asked another question. It says the Travel Institute website mentions the investment in money, a fee. What is the investment in time for a CTA?
The CTA, well, all of our courses are designed to be self-paced and self-study. All right. Again, we're not a school. We don't pretend to be a school. If you need instructor-led training, then you need to go and look in that direction. But by doing the self-paced, self-study, all of our courses, it really allows us to keep the course down and allows you to do it in your own time frame, so that you're not locked into structured semesters or whatever. So people come in and they're gung-ho, they're excited, and they want to get through it. Some people come in and want to go through my CTA program in order to qualify for their IATA number. That's one of the processes that IATAN uses in order to vet for that. So I do get people coming in and wanting to do that. You have a full year to go through any of my courses, but I usually recommend you do it in 3-4 months. Each of them probably takes is a 50 to 60 hour time commitment. So
great. Monica Pascarello from Scala Atlanta asks, do you offer a course for working from home for those that are transitioning from traditional brick and mortar to virtual? And she says, P.S. wonderful to see you. You may remember me from years ago when I worked for Jeff Drew at Seaboard.
Oh, sure. My buddy Jeff. Yes. Yes. Nice to see you. Transitioning, working from home. I'm more than happy to have a conversation. Everybody's coming in with different ideas. What is it? Are you doing this to supplement? Are you transitioning into, are you moving your business into full time? Do you have to start figuring out your database? it's different for everybody. And that's why when I start getting these questions where it's very unique to you, I usually just recommend pick up the phone, call me, or pop me an email, and let's start a conversation that way, because it just makes it much simpler. And that's the truth of it. There's just, again, I can't just hand people a piece of paper and say, well, do these 5 things and then it's all going to work out. It just isn't that simple. It's a complicated business, and there's lots of moving pieces. And so I would love to catch up with you. I can fill you in on what Jeff Drew's doing, and we can gossip about what else is going on.
Excellent. I was going to ask, I had a question in regards to when you were talking about the CTA and the time commitment. In regards to, I know there was a testing process. How does the testing process work? And if you can provide a little bit more detail on that end of it.
Well, that's another thing that we do that's sort of unique to the Travel Institute. We don't give you a free ride. Our testing is online. When you're ready to test, we make it very simple. You just go in, fill out a form. All of our testing is proctored. So you have to have a proctor that's not related to you and that's not going to be sitting for that test and is 21 years or older. And it's closed book, and you need to get a passing grade of 70 or more. So it's we have graders on our staff. There's people who have to read essay questions. So we don't make it simple on ourselves either. We take it seriously, and we want to make sure that you come away with the information that you signed up for. The other thing is, because CTA is so popular and we have so many people that are going through it, we've got an amazing Facebook group. Geeta, who's our director of educator, and her team, they're engaged constantly. So there's lots of motivation, lots of support. They do review sessions before you test. There's just so much support because we have so many people, and their commitment, it's not just, we don't want to just get people enrolled. We want to get people finished. We want you to complete it. So enrolling you is not what we're trying to do. I mean, yes, that's part of it, but we want to get you to the testing and the passing and moving on process, so that now you can take advantage of, we have what we call digital credentials, and we launched that last year, where people can click on your credentials, if it's a CTC or CTA, whatever it might be, and it actually brings up a profile, and it has your email address and it tells people what that means, what that certification means, in case they're not familiar with it. We also have, we recently launched a consumer facing site. So if anybody is out there looking for a certified travel agent, it will come up and they will get the directory, and any one of our 26,000 people that's out there that's been certified with us, they're eligible to be in that directory. So there's some nice benefits as well. And you're part of our team, you're part of our family.
Yeah, I remember getting a study group, I believe, and it was a really great group. And some of them I still am connected to today. So it really becomes almost like a part. You're part of like the travel family, but in a different. It's more of like a study professional development kind of way. It's very cool.
It was, I was a supplier. So, did I need my CTA? Did I need to know about, selling all-inclusive resorts or selling insurance? And, but it didn't hurt that it gave me a different perspective of what the agents are doing, what they're going through. And when I went through it, I actually took my top account and went through it with them. So I'm in there with my top account down in Naples, Florida. And every week we would be meeting and getting together with their top agents, me and their top agents. No other supplier was in there. And it not only was my top account, but because of that, of going through that and that team building, and they're still my friends. I mean, when you go through that, like you said, they're still your friends. But they not only not only continued to be my top account, they became my top national account just because of that. So anybody that's a supplier out there, if you're looking for a way to team build with some of the agents out there, going through this process with them is a great exercise. And you really get to know them, and you really get to bond. It was a great bonding experience.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this is the last question that I have for us today. So, Patty, here you go. It's from James Enright from Skull, DC. He says, our industry has been hit extremely hard with many agencies closing as not having any business, including independent agents. But at the same time, the travel advisor is more important than ever. Will the training schedule offered change due to the pandemic impact?
I'm trying to wrap my head around this one. I think I'm seeing consolidating going on. There's no question. Yes, there are definitely some independent contractors who threw in the towel and went to do something else. There's no question. Does it mean that they won't come back into the industry? I don't think so. You know, like any crisis, something good comes out of it. And, the ones that went away, maybe they needed to go away. And the ones that stayed, they're going to be stronger because they found ways to figure it out, to keep their doors open, to pay their agents. I had a virtuoso agency, a good friend of mine, and they're struggling. There's no question about it. And she's like takes a lot of pride in the fact that she didn't lay anybody off, and that she is still paying them the same, even though it's probably a lot of it's coming out of her pocket in addition to the PPE that's out there. But she insisted. She goes, I'm doing this for you. I'm committed to you, and we are going to come out of this, and we're going to come out bigger and better and stronger. But I need a commitment from you that you're going to take these courses on how to sell, take these kind of TED Talks, master classes, whatever. And she gave them each a list that they needed to take. And she said, I need you, if I'm going to be in this, you need to be in this with me, and I need you when we're on the other side of this, you need to be able to hit the ground running. And the days of just the phone, expecting the phone to ring and your regular clients coming back, you just can't live off of that anymore. I need new business to come in, and that's I'm gonna invest in you. You have to invest your time to do a better job on the other side of this. And I thought that was great. Give them the tools so that when they come out, they're going to be better and more equipped to help her with more sales and to bring in some new clients.
That's awesome. That's a great way of ending it, but also it's a great story to tell of ideas to share for anyone that's currently working through the pandemic and things that they can be doing with their teams to build them for coming out of the current pandemic that we're in. So great. It was great chatting with you, Patty, and thank you for being with us here today. I'll invite Jim to jump on to say a few final words. But again, thank you all for attending today's webinar session with Patty Noonan and hearing about the Travel Institute. And here's Jim Dwyer for some final remarks.
Thank you, Morgan. Patty, a large thank you to you. That was very informative and very necessary right now. Some good questions, great answers. For those of you out there who know anyone in the St. Louis area in the travel and tourism hospitality industry, let us know because I think later in the year we're going to be calling Patty Noonan Skull League Patty Noonan. We're going to get the Skull St. Louis Club up and running. We have her friend and my new friend, Dia Hoover. We have Dwayne Huff, who is he's been in St. Louis a couple of years now. He was a member of Skull Louisville. So if you have any information, send it to us because we want to get the club up and going again. So keep in mind, put this on your calendar. We have 3 upcoming dates. February 25th, we have Catherine Heeg. March 16th, we have Greg Takahara. And April 14th, we have Pauline Frommer. All right, thanks again, everybody. Thank you again, Patty, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Stay
Bye-bye
safe.
now.
Bye-bye.